Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm a cadet navigator of third course of Maritime Academy Institute. The news often talks about unmanned shipping. Some of us are afraid of losing a job. The developer says that unmanned vessels will be safer and more economical. But not everything is so simple. Today I would like to tell you about the difficulties of development of unmanned shipping. The fifth rule of the Code states, every vessel shall at all times maintain a proper lookout by sight and hearing as well as by available means appropriate in the prevailing circumstances and conditions so as to make a full appraisal of the situation and of risk of collision. Lookout is not a simple process. Today there is no more perfect optical device than the human eye. Sergei Vavilov wrote in the book The Eye and the Sun about light, sun and vision that the modern camera does not have all capabilities that the human eye has. And all the principles of the camera are reflected in the human eye. Much about our body is unknown. Optical devices will be improved thanks to the examination on the human eye. Michio Kaku, a professor of theoretical physics, writes in the book The Future of the Mind that vision is a complex process. No machine can reproduce it. It is a very difficult task for scientists who work with development of artificial intelligence. Academician Roshan Baj thought, how does the human eye, or rather the human brain, perceive space? And how do optical devices perceive space? Can we trust these images? How accurately do they convey space? In fact, the picture of space which person can see is created by the brain. If you look at the engraving by Maurice Cornelis Escher waterfall, you will understand this. It seems to you that the water is supposed to rise. It is illusion. Academician Rochenbach wrote in the book The Geometry of the Picture and Visual Perception. It is impossible to accurately convey the geometry of subjective space on the plane of the picture. Developers of unmanned navigation should remember this fact about the optical devices. Captain Mirgyazov, who handled the ship Robocha remotely last year, thinks that it is more difficult than handling an ordinary vessel. On a classic vessel, you can go to the wings of the bridge, look at the situation around the vessel. It is easier than use camera in remote mode. At the level of the consciousness, the human brain receives 2000 bits of information per second, and at the level of the subconsciousness 400 billion bits per second. And then comes the processing of information. The information received on shore by a remote operator will be different from information that received by a sailor on a ship. Also, the solutions will be different. And these differences will be stronger the more complicated the situation. The human brain has a unique ability to turn off stimuli that do not contribute to solving specific tasks. Even the most highly automated system cannot do it. Situation will be difficult when two vessels which have equipment from different manufacturers will meet. Several companies in the world which works with development of unmanned vessels are far from navigation. Professor Grigoriev, who works in our academy, noticed that none of the developers consider the problem of applying the rules of the Colrec. The equipment installed on unmanned vessels will be based on the knowledge and psychological characteristics of its developers. Today the watch system is obligated to collect and transmit information about all changes in the navigation situation. It is impossible in unmanned navigation. The navigators can diverge from another vessel on which the watch officer differs from him in mentality, qualification and practical experience. The same cannot be said about unmanned vessels. Let's remember about the recent disasters with SSJ-100 aircraft. The pilots were working with computer systems all time and forgot the manual control. It is the main reason. Professor Grigoriev, who works in our academy, believes that an accident is a reckoning for progress. He remembered the day when the gyro compass was broken. All time he worked only with it. Captain forgot how to work with magnetic compass. He ordered to drop an anchor. Captain Nurgiazov said that abnormal situations arose during the test of the ship Robochia because of loss of communication, so it was necessary to use manual control. Fortunately, the crew could handle manual. We should remember that all devices depend on electrical energy except the magnetic compass. A blackout is not uncommon. The results of Professor Grigoriev's polling among captains and officers are on the screen. You know by TV programs about tests of unmanned vessels. But remember that the tests were carried out during non-working hours at a distance from the shore and vessels without passengers on board. But in the future, it is assumed that vessels of this class will make voyages already in the real conditions of modern navigation. And if this happens in conditions of high intensity of navigation, in difficult hydrometeorological conditions, in the presence of interference during the passage of radio signals at high speeds, and finally, failures of navigation equipment, blackouts. The processes in the event of an emergency will become irreversible. The highly automated vessel stands as a multifunctional spacecraft. The payback period of a modern vessel today is 10 or 12 years. During the transition to unmanned shipping, it will be longer. Also remember that space communication is very expensive. Unmanned shipping needs constant space communication. Unmanned vessels will be vulnerable to pirates and hackers. I agree that the pirates can't take hostages from unmanned vessels, but what about the cargo? You should not believe that pirates are stupid and hungry people. Well-organized criminal groups include them. Ordinary American students were able to knock ships off course. The United States is forced to replace the national GPS navigation system because of this. Modern technologies can remove information from ice about a real vessel from the screen and place information on the screen about a vessel that does not exist. It will be not difficult to crack the control codes of unmanned vessels. Pirates will find an opportunity to influence the objectivity of information received by ice and GPS. I was in practice last summer and I know that sailors spend a lot of time caring for the ship. Every day I took part in this. The developers don't have any ideas on this. My first vessel is a oil and chemical tanker, second time Darnia. Every week or more often we excited. During the exercises, the crew practiced actions in emergency situation, for example, an oil spill. This situation is dangerous for environment. All depends on the actions of the crew. I am afraid to think about the lack of a crew. Professor Grigorov says that a supertanker without a crew is a bomb, perhaps not a time bomb. Dear sailors, don't worry. Our difficult and sometimes dangerous, important and of course respectable job will be endeavored for a long time. We will receive a good salary deservedly. Thank you for attention.